Our next topic really is on the OIC. I know Gambians have heard a lot about the OIC, going as far back as 2016. And yes, it is here and it's going to happen. And our next discussion point would be on that. But before I call Mr. Sanneh, I would just want to give a brief overview of the OIC. It's a 57-member state body. Initially, when it was constituted, the idea was to preserve the Islamic heritages. And this is why we have heritage sites. And this is why we have Saudi Arabia and Iran being very critical in terms of the OIC. But now the OIC has moved beyond preservation of historical Islamic heritage sites to the point where it's a global player. Actually, it's the second largest body after the United Nations. So a very important institution, as it were. Saudi Arabia, as I said, and Iran, deep pockets, they have been giving meaningful contributions to the OIC, and hence the hosting of the OIC summit in itself, as it were. In 2016, the decision was made when it was hosted in Turkey that the Gambia would host the 2018 OIC, which we are now having in 2019. And Senegal, our neighbors, have hosted the OIC twice. Yeah, the first one was the 6th summit, and then subsequently the 11th summit in 2008, during which, of course, President Maître Abdoulaye Wade was the president. And I just want to give you perhaps a brief quote when the Senegalese President Abdoulaye Wade was interviewed during the course of the OIC. He was asked about the expected outcome of the summit and what he hopes would be derived from the summit. And this is what he said. He said, "We hope that it would encourage development partnerships between African members of the OIC and oil-rich Muslim countries, and that in solidarity, wealthy members would help propel the economic development of the countries, the African member countries." Asked about the same summit, but here the question was to the Foreign Minister of Senegal, Cheikh Tidiane Gadio. He said he hoped that the summit would help propel the Islamic Solidarity Fund, and that it would be a mechanism to sort of close the gap between the wealthy Arabs and its poor African members. Now, of course, just as the summit in Senegal, the summit to be held in the Gambia, already there are some Gambians that have skepticisms. Would we benefit as much from the summit as we expect that we would benefit? The same skepticism held in Senegal as well, to the point where there were even posters of Abdoulaye Wade promoting the summit, but then you had writings against those posters that said, "We are hungry." These are realities. You know Senegalese, they say it as it is. I mean, we've not gone to that extent in the Gambia. But I would want to quote an example. Last weekend, I had a chat with my friend Nyang Jai, and I sought clarification in terms of, we see on the Battle Hardened Highway, there are so many buildings against which we have minus 23 meters, minus 15 meters, and it's creating a brouhaha, if you will, within the economy. Now, development comes at a cost. We all know this. And the OIC, well, we're supposed to improve our infrastructure. Now, the same infrastructural improvement happened in Senegal. Actually, some contend that it was during the 2008 summit that the infrastructural development that we see in Senegal, that was what gave that was the catalyst. So if we're going to achieve the same thing here in the Gambia, necessarily it means that we have to pay the price in terms of some of the things that we've been expected to do. But cut a long story short, will the OIC summit help the Gambia to move beyond? This is the question that we have to ask, and we hope that the next presenter, in the name of Mr. Lamin Sanneh, would help us to answer these questions. Mr. Sanneh, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Ben. You've done my job a good justice, because I don't think I'll have much to say, but to take more questions. I'll just touch on 2 points that are very important. The OIC itself comes with a lot of issues. You have a geopolitics to deal with, number one. Number two, yes, there is a lot of support you can get from the OIC, but it depends on how you present it. And I will bring that home because I think that is what is important to us today. That yes, will we benefit? 100%, yes, we will benefit. It depends on where you sit, what you do. For example, the projects we are about to launch, I think we've been very, very clear that Gambian content is a must. It's not a shall, it's a must. And if you read the papers, it's very clear. And even the pre-qualification documents we are now selling, it is very, very clear. So Gambians will benefit based on your capacity. So again, it's a question of, yes, will Gambians benefit? Yes. But in what capacity? Now, development comes with a price. Yes. Today, you touch on the issues of the road, which every Gambian is yearning for. Now, the question is, do we want a road or do we want to keep our current status quo? No, I don't think people want to keep the current traffic congestions we face every day. But there's a solution. So the solutions have been worked out. Yes, there are houses been marked 22 plus, 21 plus. The technicians are dealing with that. As we speak right now, there's a committee that we call the Road Reserve Committee. They meet every Thursday. We host them, which includes all the stakeholders from NRA, NAWEC, DAMTEL, KMC, Birkama Area Council, Physical Planning Lands, the ministry. So there's a big team that is looking at this, and they went on that exercise. So the marking and stuff is from the technicians. So there's a solution being worked out. As we go along, that will be very, very clear. But coming back to my point, today we are at a stage of very advanced because we've done a lot of work. If you remember, the first meeting I held in March when I came was at the chamber, and I did make certain statement, and I'll repeat that again. The OIC is here for Gambians. It's not for foreigners. This is our turn. Senegal had their turn. They did it, and they took off in terms of infrastructure. You are right, Ben, yes. I was involved at some point in those projects in Senegal for how we used to sit. But what is important for us Gambians today is to come together. I said in my first meeting with you guys was silo mentality will not take us anywhere. And I'll repeat it again. If we want to come together, we can do great things. We've tested it at the Secretariat. It worked. Today, everything we are doing in the Secretariat has been done by Gambians. From the website, corporate brochures, our furnishing, letterheads, everything we've done so far are done by Gambians. And that's the start. We've gone one step further. Any contractor that is not Gambian, you must have a Gambian partner. So the local content that you were talking about is still there. But it has a caveat. You have to have the capacity. Let's be honest. And I want to be very clear. I don't miss my words. I say it the way it is. If you want to participate, you have to go in an area where you have the required capacity. That will help me and help all of us. Projects are in the papers. Consultancy is there. Contracting is there. And more are coming. We are focusing on the priorities, what we have been able to mobilize. Because remember, this is debt-free. It's mela, danyome. So, we want to do more. So we have a lot of programs, but we need to prioritize. So the 5 we are focusing on are the ones we've already finalized funded. We're just starting to move. That's why it's in the papers, and we're moving to the next level. So we have phase 2 and phase 3. It could go till 2027, 28. The objective for Gambians should be, how do we make this thing happen? Buñ yakamti. Sen li du jot, time bi jot na. For me, we need to forget about that. Let's focus on how do we do this road properly? How do we create jobs for our people? If it's going to take us 10 years on these projects, at least we have the jobs. Gambians are working on these projects. But to say 2019, yes, the summit is 2019. I didn't see anywhere in the OIC guidelines that say, oh, to host our summit, you have to do 2 roads or 3 roads. I worked for that entity for 3 years. I was in Saudi Arabia. I've attended the meetings in Jeddah and Makkah. I've never seen where they ask you, you have to do roads before the summit. What is important if you're hosting, you use the opportunity to develop your country. And that's what we're doing. And in that process, it takes time to design a road. My big brother is here, he knows it's not an overnight thing, right? It takes time. Even a simple house, you have to go get the permit, get the plan, get this. It's not easy. For the last 5 months, we have done a lot of work to get to where we are today. So it's going to take another hard work to the next phase. It's phases. Getting the money is not easy. You know, and it's a reality. I travel a lot, and I travel with the ministers. It's a difficult job. But we have to do it for Gambia. That's bottom line. So you on the private sector, the message is, it's yours. We on this side will do our part. Your part is to come together. For example, the website we built, 3 companies are involved. They're all young Gambians. Seriously, young Gambians. Our letterheads are designed by young Gambians. Our ID cards. The furnishing we had in the office done by Gambians. And that's what, look, even the artwork we buy for the gifts, we have made it very clear. We have to grow our local economy. So the message is, whoever has a capacity, wherever it is required in this process, Gambians will be. Will be. Not shall, it will. It has to happen. So we have to work together. So that's why anytime you call me, I'm there. Just to give you that message, repeat myself again. We have to be consistent. And we've gone a long way to make it happen in our documentation, in how we do things. And so I want that to continue. And today we are at the pre-qualification stage for most of the projects. Today, tomorrow, the water and electricity will be out in the papers again for both the consultancy and the design and build for NAWEC. We are doing about 250,000 liters a minute, a new reservoir for NAWEC. It's about $22.5 million. I think the location should be around Sanyang or so. It's the final location. And the electricity distribution grid, we are putting another $10 million to do that happen. So the projects are coming, and this is separate from the road, it's separate from the airport launch, it's separate from the hotel and the business we want to build. So there are those are 5 major projects we're focusing on now, but there are more to come. We've not talked about the vehicles, we're not talking about, look, 320 Gambians will be required to work on the conference facility for a week, for a period of 2 weeks. That is just for the summit. Prior to the summit, at least 6 months or 5 months, we will have to hire these people to train them. Now, this facility is permanent. It's not going to move after the summit. We're not going to pack it and put it in a ship and take it somewhere else. It's going to stay here, and we have to sell it, right? If we have to sell it, we have to build a capacity. So we need to have a core of Gambians who have the capacity, who have the passion also, because this job also is a service delivery. You need to have a passion for it. So we need to build that capacity, and it has to be run by Gambians. So there's a lot coming on the OIC for the summit and after the summit. So I'll leave the floor open. If you have any questions to ask, I'll take questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanneh. A very well elaborate presentation. My question really is, we applaud you for the projects that you're doing. But if I look at these projects, these are major infrastructure. And yes, infrastructure is badly needed. I mean, we are not saying anything against it. But we also know that there are very few Gambians that will benefit, even where you've made a provision for local content on these projects. These are major. They are major and time is short. Is there any way that through the OIC, some program can be done to help, small and medium-sized enterprises? Because if you look at the room today, I mean, you could hardly point out a huge infrastructure participant. I mean, we as staff, I mean, people see us big, but some of the projects that you are saying, we are even a macro enterprise, and we cannot compete. That is the reality. So I think it would be nice, I don't know how it can be done, that the majority of businesses in this country are probably, if anything is smaller than macro, and in terms of this amount of money that's going to come in. So it will be nice to find a way of tweeting around so that these huge businesses, will benefit one way or the other.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jai. I think that's a very valid question, and I think it's something that we're very much working on, because I agree these are major projects. But on these projects, there's a secondary part to it, because we've realized that if you're going to do a road, you need a lot of services. And some of these services cannot be provided by some of these big boys. So it has to be provided by the smaller entities. It depends on the sectors we are looking at. But yes, we have talked about it. Even yesterday, we were looking at how do we incorporate some of these small-scale traders providing small services that can be co-opted into the main contractors. Now, on the other side, we are also looking at Gambians that have skill set in certain areas. For example, today we're talking about the uniforms that are going to be used by most of the drivers and the security forces, the ushers. We're looking at the services that are required for the conference facilities. Can we Gambianize it and make sure around the event management side, what Gambians have capacity, can we, what's that?
Somebody said yes, we can.
Yes, so those are areas that we are looking, which are not part of the block and concrete and cement work. But yes, we are looking at it, and I think it's something that we will find a solution, because the funding is available. But I just have to make sure that we get the quality and the scope out, and then get it to Gambians. Probably what we can do is, between us, just make sure that at least it's Gambianized. I think that's what I will say.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask one very simple question. What is the most centralized place for people to be able to get updates and information about the OIC? Because I know right now there's a lot of effort being made to put information out on the newspapers, on TV. Sometimes I will see you online. But I think it's important as well for people to just know one place that they can go to where they will get the most up-to-date information about everything that's going on. And the second thing also, with regards to the road, like many people that are here, I woke up one day and I came and found a mark on one of my buildings. And I was told that by the 23rd, I had to demolish half of one of my stations. And I think sometimes the communication might be lacking, because I know that was not the intention. We all welcome the road, but I think sometimes if there is a lack of communication, that's when rumors start. And rumors are never good for any project that's going on in Gambia. So I just wanted you to shed some light on that.
Yeah, thanks, Hali. On the first question on the information accessibility, I think the website should be up and running now. We will have most of the information there. Okay, we'll give it to you, don't worry. We are launching it today at the board meeting at State House. From here, I'm going to the board meeting, and it should be up and running today. Actually, it's on right now. And we're doing few marquees on the roads. We just finished signing up yesterday. Again, this is done by a Gambian. Yesterday, we signed a marquee project with a Gambian to do that. So I think, how long will it be, Nyang? When will you have that in town? A week or 2 weeks? So by end of December, you'll see that it will feature a lot of information. So if you're driving past them, one will be by the roundabout by our office, one will be by the conference facility, digital screen, and it will give a lot of information. Awareness programs have already started. We're going up country to sensitize Gambians about the OIC, what it brings, and what to expect. Because we don't want people to see flights flying over and then start thinking what's going on. So we need to make sure that people are much informed about what to expect when these people are in town. Okay? On the second part of your question, which is more of a technical thing, right now, as I said, they're currently meeting in the office. And I think we made it very clear that the communications could have been better. Because you have to also remember that this is not us doing the communication or in chat, because the stakeholders have met, and they meet every Thursday. They came up with a program and said, we have to do this to make sure that we have space for the roads. And I think out of that communication, probably the meeting, they've decided that they will go ahead. I think the physical planning guys and the lands and survey and the National Road Authority are working on that exercise. Yes, the message, they got the message, because I was not in town. And I was called like, what's going on? So I was like, okay, let me find out. But then it's been addressed right now, so I think there will be communication. I think we'll try to get a press release out just to make sure that people understand that this is why we're doing it, and then why and the next steps. So there will be much lighter communication coming out, probably after today's meeting.
So if you have to demolish a station, did you build on somewhere which is illegal, or are you going to be compensated?
So I think where it's very interesting is that, for example, there are places where people have leases that are even given to them within the 40 meters that has been allocated for the road. And I think what physical planning has been doing is going around and actually marking any building that has fallen within those 40 meters. So it's becoming obviously a big fight, and people are talking about it. What I did immediately the following day, I woke up and we took a whole delegation of people and we went to see physical planning and gave them all of our paperwork that showed why we built on the land that we built on. But like I said, the deadline, today is the 22nd. We were told that by the 23rd we have to respond. But when we went, we were told that, you know what, we will communicate back to you. So right now what I have on paper is actually completely different from what I'm being told when I'm going to actually see them. So that was why I was saying that I can't demolish a station in 2 weeks. So, and I think that problem is right now being faced by all of the people that are along that road.
The reason I raise the question, there's a legality to all of these issues. You were given a permit to build a station. You cannot just build a station like that. So Ministry of Finance will give you a permit, you build the station, you have your paperwork and everything. Now OIC is coming with a project. So these are some of the problems that I have. Fine, it's an enhancement project, upgrade, whatever you call it. Now you're demolishing somebody's station. Are you going to compensate them? Because we remember when the GPA was doing the port expansion project, there was a lot of problems with regards to compensation. Some they compensated, some they did not compensate. Up till today, we are having these problems. So really, I mean, the OIC also should look at these things in terms of Gambians don't have money. I mean, when they start a business, they want to sustain the business. So when you destroy it, what's the recovery plan? Yeah.
Well, it's a concern. You know, we had no intention to break properties, honestly, and at no point in my calculations as a facilitator to finance the road project that I was told that, okay, the plan is here, is there. What we do as a secretariat is to facilitate the funding and make sure that the road projects that were presented to us are funded. Now, the local government physical planning and the National Road Authority have their plans that had covered this area. So that's why we have the Road Reserve Committee sitting every Thursday to come up with. So now what we are trying to find out, what technologies are available to make sure that people are not inconvenienced. Now, when it comes to the crunch that you have no choice, somebody's house has to be demolished, it has to be demolished because the road cannot be moved all over because people's houses are there. So there will be a mechanism to resolve that issue. I'm 100% sure that we will not support that. We will do our best to make sure whoever is inconvenienced is fully compensated.
Thank you very much. I just want to make record straight. GPA, I'm a member of GPA. GPA have compensated every individual household. And in fact, we went to the extent of getting them a land. Right, thank you.
Okay, we'll take Mr. Nyangjai over there at the corner. And after that, we'll take Mr. Bernard Mendy by the picture.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for granting me the opportunity. I just want to shed some light and set the record straight. Three things. The OIC has nothing to do with compensation, marking, or trying to relocate people. Gambians need to understand that there has been an urban master plan for over 30 to 33 years in the Gambia. From the traffic light all the way to the airport, within our master plan, as a country, we had a buffer. The buffer was for services. What are services? High tension cables, water lines, fiber optic lines, street lights, and wires coming to your house from NOWEC services. Unfortunately, the very government who created that master plan over the past two administrations were the very governments who violated the master plan. That's one. Secondly, their personal encroachments. But we need to understand that the country has an eminent domain law. The eminent domain, if the country needs land for the interest of the greater good, people must be and should be compensated at fair market value. Right now, Gambia is at a crossroad. We need to think two things. Do we want to continue to live as a village and be a subpar country, or do we want to move into the future as one of the countries to be counted within the sub-region? If the answer is the latter, we need to bite the bullet and do the right thing. And lastly, Mr. Job mentioned information. We are ready to roll out, and not only a website, but on all social media platforms, you know, from Flickr, Twitter, Instagram, all of it, and it's going to be out. And what we are also doing, we will have legacy projects. We just don't want the OIC to come and go. We want Gambians to feel the impact of the OIC. We will choose each region in the country and do a legacy project that people will remember the OIC for. Equally on the roads, we're discussing that, look, if we really want to help the unemployment problem in the country, the secondary roads that we are doing, we need to find a solution that will boost employment at least 10% to 15%. How? We have 50 kilometers of secondary roads to put. We've realized if we just put tar roads, we will give monies to big companies. And guess what? When NAWEC and GAMTEL are ready to do their maintenance, they're going to shave off those roads and it becomes a problem. But if we have a big concrete plant in town that can, at least on a given day, produce nothing less than 6,000 to 12,000 square meters, we can start doing roads with pavement blocks, and people with least skills or no skills can be hired to just come and arrange these blocks for companies. 50 kilometers of road using concrete, you can easily create employment of 4,000 to 7,000 youths within the greater Banjul area. And these are some of the things that we're looking at. These are some of the things that we want to work with and partner with some of the ministries who are involved in doing work to make sure that we create gainful and meaningful employment for the youth folk, and also do skills transfer with companies that are coming to do work on behalf of the OIC. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take Mr. Mendy at the back.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Njai. I think your response has touched a few of my concerns. That is regarding the expansions of the road network. I think it becomes very scary when you look at just from, let's say, like Latrikunda going towards Tabokoto, where one, if you close walk, you have to at least spend 30, 40 minutes to, okay, somebody's even saying 1 hour to cross to the other end of this country, that is Lamin even end. At times you are faced with even the option of, do you spend almost the whole night traveling, going home for a distance that should have taken you 5, 10, 15 minutes, or you take the back roads, go through the potholes, and you fix your car the next day in a mechanic garage. So I think one thing is very clear. We should stop these stop-go policies. If we are going to expand the roads, every hand must be on deck. The OIC, the central government, and even the international community, so that we have a comprehensive road expansion project that will stay the test of time. Otherwise, the rate at which the Gambian population is growing, I presume it's about 4%. The land is not going to increase. Let's assure ourselves that. But the population of the Gambia is going to continue to grow. These roads were huge roads in 1965, because you could barely count in your hand how many cars are going to pass in a particular time. Now everybody, including my kids, would want to drive a car come tomorrow. How do we cater for that in 50 years from now? That's what we should be thinking at. Inconvenient as it may be now to demolish some of these structures, but I think if it's an evil, it's a necessary evil now. Otherwise, we are going to face a bigger evil come 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So it's about time
we start planning for that. And also, for God's sake, the NAWEX, the GAMTEL, stop excavating our roads. Have proper plans in place so that when a road is built, at least it stays the test of time. But we turn out to be the ones who excavate the very roads that we have spent millions of US dollars on. At the end of the day, believe you me, when a road is patched, it can never be correct. It can never be like the original. No matter what you put on it, it can never be like the original. So when we are going to plan, let's make comprehensive plans that are going to stay the test of time and not excavating, on doing what we have done and then putting a burden on our economy and on future generations of this country. Thank you.
So we've done a lot of driving around, and I think we are looking at 14 roads. The first one is the parallel road to Battle Hurdle. This road, Battle Hurdle will be the last to touch. Let me make it clear here that we are not going to start with Battle Hurdle. If we do that, then we are all stuck. So there's no sense in starting Battle Hurdle. First, you get the secondary roads to divert the traffic from Battle Hurdle, then you finish up with Battle Hurdle. So just to make sure that people understand that we have identified the roads. For example, the main one is the secondary parallel road from behind our office all the way to, it comes all the way to Manjai. It's not straight, but at least people can use it. And there are more on the Sukuta end and even Kairaba Avenue between the mosque and Auntie Selinjai's house. That road that is also part of the project to come all the way to Manjai Kunda. So these are roads that we will start with so that we divert people going to that area into those areas before we touch the main road, because that's the only one we have. If we touch it now, I don't know, maybe we'll just buy helicopters to fly home. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. The last topic of discussion today is the Constitutional Review Commission. And what we would, I would just give a brief overview in terms of the CRC, and then we would invite
you.